Thank you, Senators. We'll now go to the motion appearing in as order number 8. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Commendation of Eliud Kipchoge and other Kenyan athletes for their outstanding performance.
Senator Aaron Cheruiyot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion. Commendation of Eliud Kipchoge and other Kenyan athletes for their outstanding performance. Aware that marathon world record holder Eliud Kipchoge wrote his name into history books by becoming the first man to run a marathon in under 2 hours on Saturday, the 12th of October 2019 in Vienna, Austria. Further aware that Brigitte Kosgei broke the 16-year marathon world record for women to become the new women's world marathon record holder during the 2019 Chicago Marathon held on Sunday, the 13th of October. Recalling the stellar performance by Kenyan athletics team that participated in the IAAF World Athletic Championship held in Doha, Qatar from the 27th of September to 6th October 2019, where the team won 5 gold, 2 silver and 4 bronze medals and emerged in the second position out of 206 participating countries. Cognizant that Kenya has earned international respect in athletics over the years, courtesy of the hard work and stellar performance by our athletes in both on and off-field events, which has brought us together as a country and encourage cohesion in line with our national anthem. Now, therefore, the Senate commends Mr. Eliud Kipchoge for his history-defining feat of achieving 159 targets to run a full marathon. B, Ms. Brigitte Kosgei for her excellent performance in Chicago Marathon 2019 and specifically for breaking the women's world record. And C, Kenyan athletics team that participated in IAAF World Athletics Championship held in Doha, Qatar from 27 September to 6 October 2019 for their stellar performance. Mr. Speaker, last weekend was an extremely proud moment for us as a country. That for a whole weekend, Kenya as a nation dominated the world news. And all over the globe, actually, everybody in perhaps almost every gathering of people that appreciate sports and what it is, at least had a thing or two to say about Kenya. Mr. Speaker, it is estimated that on that beautiful Saturday morning in Vienna, when Eliud Kipchoge did something that no other human being has ever done in history before, close to 2 billion people across the globe sat down to watch him and cheered him on as he achieved this momentous feat. Mr. Speaker, we have seen further that across social media and other avenues, he has received commendation and praise from former heads of states, Nobel laureates, celebrated sports people from across the globe. And each time they do that, Mr. Speaker, the name of Kenya is held in high honor, Mr. Speaker. The least we could do as a country is to at least, first of us, those of us who are in this parliament, is to one, celebrate this 3 group of gallant athletes, Mr. Speaker. One, Eliud Kipchoge for what he achieved. Secondly, Brigitte Kosgei breaking a 16-year-old record. For 16 years, various athletes have tried actually to bring down this record that was held by the British Paula Radcliffe, but they were unable to do it. And finally, a Kenyan actually put a great performance just a day after another Kenyan had dominated the world news in terms of sports and broke this 16-year-old record. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the third lot that you're celebrating is a team that we sent to Doha to represent us in the IAAF World Championship. 206 countries meeting, and Kenya finishes second. That is no mean achievement, Mr. Speaker. The question that we should be asking ourselves, Mr. Speaker, is what is it that you are doing as a country? What is it that you are doing as a leadership to ensure that this great performance continue to be celebrated, that there are many other Eliud Kipchoges that perhaps because of the dilapidated nature of our sports arenas across the country, Mr. Speaker, they are not able to thrive. And it's not only in athletics, Mr. Speaker. We are talking about the same in football. We are talking about the same in basketball, handball, and all sorts of discipline, Mr. Speaker, which unfortunately, because of lack of investment, if you read the last few years' budget, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Sports gets the least allocation. Yet, if there is industry that is so capable of earning this country more revenue in terms of our athletes going out to conquer the world, the amount of money that Eliud Kipchoge will come back with to this country, Mr. Speaker, is a significant amount. That is investment that has come back to the country of Kenya just by one simple athlete going and doing their imagine. Now imagine if you have 1,000 of such as Eliud Kipchoge, Mr. Speaker. You will not need to be borrowing. We will not be needing to be expanding our debt ceiling to fund the operations of government in this country, Mr. Speaker. Government will be able to at least get something, and there will be significant investment into this country, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I want to urge this House that in the next few months, when we consider the budget policy statement and the fiscal strategy paper, let us at least for once as a House resoundingly say something about the misplaced priority in terms of sports management in this country, Mr. Speaker. Sadly, Mr. Speaker, in the last few years, at least if you watch, say, for example, football, the National Premier League had gotten some semblance of order, Mr. Speaker. And the same was because of what sports betting firms were putting in terms of investment in our national football team. We can argue for or against betting, Mr. Speaker. I am a Christian myself. I have never betted. I do not support the practice. But as a leader, I have to appreciate that different choices go for different people. Therefore, I cannot sit in a public office and say, because I do not agree with the practice of, say, betting and gambling, I want to ban it and destroy a particular industry in its entirety. It is a shame, Mr. Speaker, what has happened to that particular industry. I cry for it, not because I love betting, but because I love sports more. It pains me to read in the newspapers, like was being painted last weekend, that various teams cannot even honor their league matches because all this, the big time betting firms used to be their main sponsors, but because they are pulled out of business in this country, they are not able to continue. Where will you get the next celebrated Eliud Kipchoge? Where will you get the next Bridget Koskei if we continue destroying sports? Finally, Mr. Speaker, it is a shame that as we speak today, there is only one stadium that is recognized by FIFA and IWF where you can do international sports in this country. It's only Kasarani. Nyayo Stadium has been in ruins. We closed down City Stadium, which could have been used. The others in the other regions, like what was supposed to be put up in Eldred, the home of most of these champions for the region, is actually a bush as we speak today, Mr. Speaker. It's a shame, and we cannot continue to speak. Mr. Speaker, you know, of late, some of us have gotten the title that we have acquired the new role of being the young opposition boys in town. It's a role that we take up with great admiration, if that is what it will take to salvage this country from what is happening, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, cognizant of the fact that we are running short of time, and many of my colleagues want to speak to this particular motion, Mr. Speaker, I'll leave it at that and I beg to move and request Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet, who's a senator for one of the gallant athletes actually that we are celebrating, or perhaps even more than one. I only thought about Bridget Koskei, who hails from Elgeyo Marakwet. Request Senator Kipchumba Murkomen to second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senate Majority Leader, Senator Murkomen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will also be brief because of time and to allow also others to be able to make their, Mr. Speaker, their comments. First, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate Senator Cheriot for coming up with this motion. Mr. Speaker, in a span of 2 days, actually last weekend, 2 Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, broke barriers. And these barriers, Mr. Speaker, is in the words of Eliud Kipchoge, who becomes the first man ever to run a marathon under 2 minutes, Mr. Speaker, is under 2 minutes, Mr. Speaker, under 2 hours, Mr. Speaker, under 2 hours. Thank you, Senator Orengo. Under 2 hours is that, Mr. Speaker, human beings must not limit themselves. In fact, Eliud Kipchoge says show me the limits and I'll go there. Mr. Speaker, it should be us who define what are the limits, and Kenyans are defining the limits. Mr. Speaker, this is a feat that, Mr. Speaker, was quickly followed by Bridget Koske, who is my neighbor back home and whom I represent in this House, Mr. Speaker, being one of the voters in Elgeyo-Marakwet County, who broke a 16 years record, Mr. Speaker, of Paula Radcliffe in women marathon in Chicago, one of the hardest courses, Mr. Speaker, in terms of running marathon together with Boston. And, Mr. Speaker, she broke that record by not just seconds, by more than 1 minute, by 80 minutes, Mr. Speaker, by 80 seconds. And, Mr. Speaker, we say this because this is a home of world record holders. David Rudisha in 2012, Mr. Speaker, made this country extremely proud by breaking the 800 meters record, and he still holds that record up to now. We have so many Kenyans who have world records, Mr. Speaker, that are rarely recognized. People like, Mr. Speaker, Moses Kiptanu, who held it for a long period of time until later that record was broken, Mr. Speaker, by Stephen Cherono. We have so many athletes in this country. We have our athletes, Mr. Speaker, like Lawrence Cherono, who won the Mr. Speaker, the Chicago Marathon. We have the gold medalist in Beatrice Chepkoech in 3,000 meters in Doha, Conselsus Kibruto in 3,000 meters steeplechase, Helen Obiri, Mr. Speaker, in 5,000 meters. You have Timothy Cheruiyot, 1,500 meters, Mr. Speaker, and Ruth Chemgetich in a very difficult condition running marathon and winning gold in Doha. We have so many of them like Margaret Chelimo and Faith Kibieko, who got silver medal, Mr. Speaker. And we have Tirop, Ferguson Cheruiyot, Ronex Kibruto, Amos Kibruto, who won, Mr. Speaker, bronze in Doha. These are some of the Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, who make this country proud every week, every weekend. And because, Mr. Speaker, I schooled with some of these people, they are my neighbors, I represent them, Mr. Speaker, you just need to go and live in Eldoret or Iten to try to recognize who are these world champions. And you'll find a simple person joking around along the roads of Iten, Mr. Speaker. And, you know, they are humble, they are simple, they are running their simple lives, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say here that I do not know your office, Mr. Speaker, but I think the House should consider. Mr. Speaker, we have had the only person since we came to this House who has addressed this House, Mr. Speaker, other than the joint address of the House by the President, is, Mr. Speaker, the former Chief Justice, Dr. Mutunga. Mr. Speaker, is it too much for me to request this House that, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Eliud Kipchoge, having achieved that rare feat, Mr. Speaker, should be given the honor by this House, and that the Senate Business Committee sit and decide with the Speaker, Mr. Speaker, that as soon as possible, with the approval of this House, he be given the opportunity to come and address this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to really note that Mr. Kipchoge has really managed himself. He's run for a long period of time, from 1,500 meters to 5,000 meters to 10,000 meters to running over 8 marathons, Mr. Speaker, and winning all of them except one, where he got silver. We got number 2. And so, Mr. Speaker, this is a man who was of great inspiration. In fact, he has built himself to the extent that he is now one of the most quoted athletes in the world because of his philosophical words, Mr. Speaker, that he manages to speak, even when we saw him in Vienna. And so, Mr. Speaker, if we give him an opportunity to come and address this House, it will be great. The last thing I want to say is that we must ensure that we continue improving sports facilities in the country. But I know that there is an accusation that the government has not achieved the study and so forth, but there are some counties who have done a good job. The county of Kakamega, Mr. Speaker, for example.
What's the point of order, Senator Wetangula?
Mr. Speaker, sorry for interrupting my distinguished colleague. Mr. Speaker, knowing the interest that we may have in discussing this matter and the time limit, allow me to move a procedural motion, Mr. Speaker, that pursuant to Standing Order 31.3a and 31.4, the Senate resolves to extend its sitting until the conclusion of business listed as number 8 in today's order paper. And I invite Mr. Speaker, Senator Mwaura to second.
No, you're not on record. You're not on record. I think Senator Mauro was not in record.
Mr. Speaker, I second that we move the motion as, we endorse the motion as moved by Senator Wetangula.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that pursuant to Standing Order 31.3A and 31.4 resolves to extend its sitting until the conclusion of business number 8 in today's order paper. Honorable Senators, I put the question that that pursuant to Standing Order 31.3A and 31.4 resolves to extend its sittings until the conclusion of business number 8 in today's order paper. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Senate Majority Leader.
So, Mr. Speaker, thank you for that. So, Mr. Speaker, I was coming to the conclusion and saying that sports facilities, some counties are trying their best. Like Kakamega County has done a good job in Bugungu Stadium, and we must give them the credit, Mr. Speaker, because I've played football there. It's a very good stadium, Mr. Speaker. Narok County, I've tried. I don't know what the name of their stadium, but in Narok Town, maybe Narok Stadium, Mr. Speaker, they have tried. Mombasa County has tried also, Mr. Speaker. There was one stadium I saw by former governor of Kiambu, but Ruiru, Mr. Speaker. Pardon? Yeah, yes, Machakos, Mr. Speaker, correct. Machakos County did a very good job, has one of the best stadiums, Mr. Speaker, that helps in playing football. But in terms of athletics, I agree with Senator Cheruiyot. There have been counties like my county, Kamarin Stadium tender was awarded. Government has not been able to release the money. It's pending up to now. The contractor has been waiting for payment. Eldoret, Mr. Speaker, Stadium, one of the should have been one of the best stadiums, Mr. Speaker, Kipchoge Stadium. Nandi County, I'm very happy to report here that Eliud Kipchoge, working with Governor Sang, who was a senator here, Mr. Speaker, are now working on the Kipchoge Stadium, Mr. Speaker, in Nandi, which is a fantastic thing because I saw Governor Sang and I spoke with him. He met with some of the sponsors, which includes the INEO sponsor, Mr. Ratcliffe, Mr. Speaker. So some of these things, in fact, the reality, even though government is expected to build this stadia, all over the world, it's the private sector that owns many of the stadiums, Mr. Speaker. And I really ask myself, why should we have big companies like Safaricom, you know, companies like, Mr. Speaker, like Kenya Power, like Kengen, and so forth, and none of them is willing to invest in sports facilities, Mr. Speaker, because we want sports facilities for playing tennis, for basketball, Mr. Speaker, for squash, for all other sports. That so that, Mr. Speaker, this country, we can be able to support all other disciplines of sports, Mr. Speaker. And I believe that if we do so, if the private sector was going to be part and parcel of this process, we're going to make this country a great place. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I think there's a lot for us to learn from these athletes in terms of personal discipline, in terms of commitment, hard work. But also, there's a lot to learn from also some of them who, although have won gold medals, Mr. Speaker, very few have been able to invest the resources they have to have a good business and better life when they get older. Mr. Speaker, one of my friends, Moses Kiptanu, who is a friend of Senator Wetangula, is a very good example. He is one of the few sports billionaires in this country, Mr. Speaker. If you go to Eldoret town and his investments and his discipline, Mr. Speaker, Eliud Kipchoge is also proving to be in that direction, Mr. Speaker. We have a friend of mine called Lorna Kiblagat and a few others. Mr. Speaker, if we can assist these athletes, if there's a way county government can sit with them so that they are given also education on business, on other things, on communication. When you see if you see what Kipchoge is doing, he's branding himself so well in terms of improved communication. If our athletes can take language lessons, communication lessons, Mr. Speaker, they will be able to brand themselves well globally, and their names can be there for a long period of time, because that's what Terga did, and that's why he's an IOC representative from this country and holding a very important position. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support. Mr. Speaker, I beg to second.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that aware that marathon world record holder Eliud Kipchoge wrote his name into history books by becoming the first man to run a marathon in under 2 hours on Saturday, 12th October 2019 in Vienna, Austria. Further aware that Brigitte Kosgei broke the 16-year marathon world record for women to become the new women's marathon world record holder during the Chicago Marathon held on Sunday, 13th October 2019, recalling the stellar performance by the Kenyan athletics team that participated in the IAAF World Athletic Championships held in Doha, Qatar from 27 September to 6 October 2019, where the team won 5 gold, 2 silver, and 4 bronze medals and emerged in the second position out of 206 participating countries. Cognizant that Kenya has earned international respect in athletics over the years, courtesy of the hard work and stellar performance by our athletes in both on and off field events, which has brought us together as a country and encourage cohesion in line with our national anthem. Now, therefore, the Senate commends Mr. Eliud Kipchoge for his history-defining feat of achieving the 1 hour 59 minutes target to run a full marathon. B, Ms. Brigitte Kosgei for her excellent performance in the Chicago Marathon and specifically for breaking the women's marathon world record. And C, the Kenyan athletics team that participated in the IAAF World Athletic Championships held in Doha, Qatar from 27th September to 6th October 2019 for their stellar performance.
Senator Wetangula.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Senator for Kericho for bringing this motion to this House. Mr. Speaker, I had actually thought of bringing one, but when I spoke to him, he had beaten me to the tape. Being from the place of great runners, he ran faster than me. Mr. Speaker, when Eliud Kipchoge broke the world marathon record, I was watching him from Ghana. I had gone for the burial of Kofi Annan. And Mr. Speaker, I was sitting with Ghanaians, including the former President John Kufuor, as we watched. And each and every one of them felt the pride that Kenyans feel. And in fact, President Kufuor asked me, why can this young man become a Ghanaian? He did so well, Mr. Speaker, that anybody could never have helped being proud of him. He's not the first to break a world record. We have the legendary Henry Rono, Mr. Speaker, if you remember, who broke the world record of steeplechase 4 times in 2 months, but degenerated into something else because of lack of proper advice. On Saturday, Mr. Speaker, when Eliud Kipchoge was attempting the first ever sub-2-hour marathon, the commentators on CNN, on BBC, and all international media were comparing Eliud Kipchoge with Neil Armstrong when he stepped on the moon in 1969. That history is about to be made. Neil Armstrong was the first man to land and step on the moon. Eliud Kipchoge is about to do something no human has ever done. And you could see, Mr. Speaker, that at the end of the race, the young man was so energetic so full of power that he could have done even better if he wished to. We salute him, Mr. Speaker. And hot on the heels of Eliud Kipchoge's feat, Bridget Kosgei, Mr. Speaker, smashes the 16-year-old world record that the legendary Paula Radcliffe had set 16 years ago. Those of us, Mr. Speaker, and I believe my distinguished learned senior, James Orengo, who is also a keen follower of athletics, who saw Paula Radcliffe running, Mr. Speaker. The lady was a powerhouse. She ran her marathons from the front, from beginning to end. And she set a world record at the time, beating Catherine Dereba of Kenya 16 years ago. And she has held this record until this weekend, when Bridget Kosgei broke it and said, Mr. Speaker, that she's going to break it even more. And from the stamina I saw, she will break it even more. On the same day, Mr. Speaker, in Chicago, a Kenyan, whose name I can't quite remember, also won the men's marathon. Although it was breathtaking because he defeated the Ethiopians by 1 second, but he still won. Previously, Mr. Speaker, we had seen in Doha, there is a girl called Helen Obiri. Whoever saw her finishing her race in 10,000 meters, Mr. Speaker, we were in a place in my town of Bungoma, and the entire social place became aflame in the manner in which Helen Obiri finished her race. Mr. Speaker, what is lacking in this country is not athletes or great athletes. Successive governments, Mr. Speaker, and this is not just an indictment to the current government, have completely neglected the successes of our athletes. We have left our athletes, even Eliud Kipchoge. Eliud Kipchoge used to be just a pace setter for people like Douglas Wakihuri and others. But he metamorphosed into a legendary runner because of stamina, because of discipline, and above all, Mr. Speaker, because I believe of his moral and religious background that I've since been following. Mr. Speaker, like Senator Murkomen said, I have a friend called Moses Kiptanui. When he was breaking world records, he was a very close friend to a young person I had employed in my law firm called Donald Kipkorir. And he used to visit my offices regularly, and we became friends. We meet every other evening when I'm in Eldoret. He has maintained such a high standard of discipline, Mr. Speaker. He's a successful businessman. He's a coach to young athletes. He's a mentor to young athletes. And he's always walking in the shadow of the legendary Kipchoge Keino, who is a success in his own right. Mr. Speaker, when I was the Minister for Foreign Affairs of this country, I started a policy of acknowledging and appreciating athletes. I gave a diplomatic passport, Mr. Speaker, to a girl called, this girl who won the jackpot from Nandi, Jeb Koskei. I gave her a diplomatic passport and advised, Mr. Speaker, then that when our athletes go out, like now Bridget Kosgei, like Moses Kiptanui then, like now Kipchoge, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should give them protocol officers to help them in passing through immigration, in helping them, even talk to the media when they finish. I remember, Mr. Speaker, it's laughable, but it is because of lack of training. One Kenyan girl, after winning a marathon in the US, she was asked, how did you manage to beat everybody? She said, I was just running, and I kept running, and God came into me, and I kept running, and then I won. Mr. Speaker, it's just because she has not been trained to handle the media in such an international glare. The Minister of Foreign Affairs has a duty, Mr. Speaker, to help these young Kenyans, train them. You can imagine when Kipchoge won and broke this record, Obama tweeted about him, Obama talked to him, the President of Kenya talked to him, many other dignitaries talked to him. These are the real ambassadors of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Not those who eat caviar and drink wine and whiskey and champagne every evening in unknown places. These are the real ambassadors of our country who go out there carrying our flag. I was very impressed in Vienna, Mr. Speaker, when Eliud Kipchoge broke the world record earlier on in Berlin. Immediately finished, he was handed over a flag of BMW, a motor vehicle manufacturing company in Germany, to wear and run around with. Ask, where are the Kenyans? We have an embassy in Berlin. We have an ambassador in Berlin. I'm sure he has Kenyan flags in his office. He couldn't go there to receive Kipchoge, Mr. Speaker. So Kipchoge was looking embarrassed running around with the BMW flag on his back. But in Vienna, it was different. For the first time, I saw a leading athlete being received at the finishing line by his family. His wife was there. By our deputy president, he was there with a Kenyan flag. And Kenyans were there cheering on. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge, because I'm sure my colleagues want to speak to this, that we need to formulate a policy. Don't leave these things, Mr. Speaker, to Kenya Athletics Association, to whatever. Those are run by criminal cartels. For them, these young athletes are an instrument of making money. You remember, Mr. Speaker, the scandal in Rio, where Kenyan athletes who are going to get medals for Kenya flew economy. The officials of Kenya Athletics were flying first class. And their families. When they go to Rio, Mr. Speaker, our athletes were being given a daily stipend of $50. The athletics managers were getting $1,000 a day. One was even arrested with athletics uniform for our athletes that should have been used in Rio. He was keeping in his house in Nairobi. So we need, Mr. Speaker, to formulate a law. And I think, Senator Cheriot, let's sit down and formulate one. And bring to this house and let it go to the other house to acknowledge our athletes, to protect our athletes, both from the local managers of athletics and the international agents that pry on our athletes. Because you'll find that sometimes when an athlete earns 50 million shillings, more than half goes to an agent. So we also need to protect them on that. But more important, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if you have been seeing cartoon strips in the papers, a taxman from KRA waiting with a hammer for Kipchoge to arrive with his money so that they can slice off what he has earned. When this kind of success is registered, Mr. Speaker, we should even give these athletes tax breaks. The money that they have earned after running so hard. They should not come here and we start taxing them, Mr. Speaker, when all the rich people in this country are evading tax every day. We shouldn't allow that, Mr. Speaker. I salute Eliud Kipchoge. I salute Bridget Kosgei. I salute our team in Doha. And I salute all our other teams, Mr. Speaker, but urge that whatever we formulate as policy and law, we should also look at now those heroes who fell by the wayside, like my friend Henry Rono, who broke a record 4 times in 1 month or 2 months and ended up washing cars in the US because there was nobody to mentor him, there was nobody to guide him, there was nobody to protect him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to support.
Senator Maura.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a very, very important motion, and I want to really appreciate Senator Cheriot for having thought through to come and actually have as honor this great Kenyan. Because as Nelson Mandela said, that everyone can rise above the circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated to and are passionate about what they do. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the case of Eliud Kipchoge. He's really made us very proud as a country, so much that many Kenyans can say, despite all the problems, I am proud to be a Kenyan. There is nobody who has put us in the world map in recent history from whatever extraction than Eliud Kipchoge has done. And he provides us with very vital lessons about human excellence. Mr. Speaker, I really want to congratulate the PR team around Eliud Kipchoge because they were able to inform us and they were able to turn our attention to him. And we were very well taken minute by minute on what was going to happen. And we were all waiting. I think everybody, wherever they were, in fact, I remember even seeing on social media, people are saying all our eyes are in Vienna waiting to see what's going to happen. But I think also it's because of that feeling that maybe he was not going to make it. It was more about our own self-doubt that this could not be achievable. You know, and I think that is the problem of ourselves as human beings, and of course we can even say even from ourselves in Africa. Now, I would want to serenade and to celebrate Eliud Kipchoge as an individual, but also as a team, because we see from his strategy of winning, he had people who are called pace setters. You know, these are 41 seasoned marathoners, both men and women, who formed a V shape so that he could not be affected by the wind and so that he would be slowed down. And they became very selfless about this win and made sure that it was Kipchoge's moment, you know. And that really, that gives us a very good lesson about leadership. There is a science around it. It is not just, as Senator Tangula was saying, somebody just rushing and ending up at the finishing line, not knowing how they found themselves there, but they went there very fast. It's about the art. Because there was a target, it was very well conceptualized, they had the strategy, and they executed it very, very well. And it tells us that even us as leaders, even if we are the vision bearers, even if we are the ones carrying the mantle, even if we are the titular heads, that we must have a team behind us, and not just a team. It should be a team of seasoned individuals if we are to deliver the vision that we carry. And I think that is very, 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 very important, even applying as leaders in any other field. That's a lesson that for me, I learned. And also in the same way, that this team made sure that Eliud Kipchoge did not lose the tempo, you know, that he maintained the tempo throughout. That means if you have a team, you have to ensure that they are able to they keep you on your toes. It's not just about, leading. In fact, Nelson Mandela, again, I quote him, he says that leading is actually putting people in front and making them feel that they're in charge. But actually, you are the one calling the shots. That's exactly what he says. So when you maintain the tempo, the team helps you to move forward. You know, that again, I think is a very important issue that actually comes out very well. And then they never allowed, they never moved out of the formation at any given point. That V-shaped formation around him, they never moved, they never got distracted. So it talks about that unity of purpose. You know, so really Kipchoge, Mr. Speaker, provides us with that very good opportunity to have very good lessons that can be applied for the benefit of the development of our society. But also, Mr. Speaker, I think Eliud Kipchoge is a Kenyan, but where did he go to get his glory? I mean, he went to get his glory in Vienna, Austria. And Julius Nyerere speaks about the issue of the inheritance of the African state. And why am I saying the African state? Because this African state is what we are trying to govern now, Mr. Speaker. And the African state is inherited from the Westphalian model that is coming from an individual contractual society and the nuances inherent in that very formation. But then an African is an individual within some kind of a fellowship, you know? We are collegiate. So that if, for example, Eliud Kipchoge runs, Kenyans, some of them will interpret and say that's a Kalenjin running, because that's how we are anyway. It's not a mistake, it's the truth. So when we talk about, why did it not happen in Kenya, Mr. Speaker? Why did it have to be at the lawns of Austria, Vienna? Could we also have made up this within our communal society? Is he actually a product of the success of the individual contractual society and the support of INEO and the other team around him? So those are some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves. And really, just as other speakers have said, why is it, Mr. Speaker, we do not have a national stadium for our athletes? A national monument. I mean, we have Nyayo, we have City, we have all of those, but they are for football. I mean, we are not very good at football, at least not until maybe we make it to the World Cup, I don't know. But for athletics, this is our niche. And I thank God for this. Because when you look at the recent games, we are always we are just next to superpowers, like USA, like Russia. Those are the people we compete. And when people like Qatar and other people, poach our people and give them some Islamic names that I don't know whether they're very comfortable with. But eventually, anyway, it's okay, it's fine. But we compete. That is what God has given us to leverage. But we have not used it to market the country. You see, other people see it as a big thing. I remember hearing the former President George W. Bush, when he was actually in power, and he was asked who was his hero. And he said Paul Tergat. Can you imagine? Paul Tergat was the hero of the most powerful president of the world. And you can see now the connection, the rise of the African man, that actually Eliud Kipchoge, when he speaks, he speaks with a lot of inspiration, and who resonates with him? The first person to become the black president, African-American president in America, Barack Obama. Again, our son. And I think, Mr. Speaker, some of these things are speaking to something, that we still have a lot of untapped potential. For example, if you go to New York, let me give an example, because I was there recently. What do they sell to you as toys and whatever? Is a car of the police, NYPD, is about the Empire State Building, is about, but do we have that kind of paraphernalia to even sell to a tourist over and above the Maasai man and the giraffe and what have you? Can we marketize this? If you look at Los Angeles, I mean, all those places, they have actually built their economy around entertainment. Look at country music. In America, when you go to those jurisdictions or those areas, that is what they sell. Riding on chariots and listening to country music. But then, I mean, I'm sure many of us may have been asked by some people that when you go out there, people think even you can run, even if you have a big pot belly. Anyway, what I mean is this: have we taken the advantage, Mr. Speaker, of ensuring that then we milk. We sell ourselves as a country of runners, because it has been consistent. It has been consistent. So, Mr. Speaker, we have an opportunity to leverage on this win, to market our country. Africa is rising. By the year 2050, we'll be 2 billion people. By the year 2100, 1 in every 4 people in the world will be an African. But then we're asking, is somebody going to eat our lunch? Because if you look at all the people who went to celebrate, they left the money in Vienna. I mean, it didn't come to us here. It didn't build our economy. So we have to have a real look, and also to look. We cannot be expecting to do the same things and expecting different results if our structures are not working. May we change them? If, for example, now we are going to Jamhuri Day, are these the people that we are going to be seen given order of the Golden Heart? Are they the ones who are going to be given order of the Burning Spear or whatever other, decoration? Because it is not really about, long-term success, really. It's about also the fact that this individual has also given us an opportunity, to shine globally. And Nelson Mandela, again, and as I conclude, says very well clearly, that if you allow your light to shine, it also encourages other people to also have their lights to shine. So today here, as we speak, we are very proud as senators because Eliud Kipchoge has given us the opportunity to also feel that also we can change. So, Mr. Speaker, with many, many remarks that I have said, I would want really to congratulate Eliud Kipchoge. I do not even want to compete in the same space with others who have won, and I want to congratulate them. But I think I want to say that this is a golden opportunity for us. It gives us time to retrospect. I was very proud to see President Uhuru Kenyatta making that call to Eliud Kipchoge, and I hope that that does not just become a buzz, does not just become a buzz around the issue and then we forget, because these are some of the opportunities, Mr. Speaker, that are going to help Africa to leapfrog itself forward into the future, even when it has been left in the past because of the many years of lack of organization around the nation state. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Orengo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I also wish to commend the Senator from Kericho for bringing this very important motion in which we are celebrating our own sons and daughters. Mr. Speaker, Eliud Kipchoge is no longer just a champion. I think he's become a phenomenon. I can even say that he is rising to be a great statesman by his utterances whenever he speaks during before or after winning races. Mr. Speaker, I say that is a phenomenon because as I traveled last week, almost everywhere I went, people were talking about Eliud Kipchoge even before the race. In fact, outside Kenya or East Africa, probably Eliud Kipchoge will probably be the best known Kenyan in the world at the moment. I was surprised in Brazil when I told somebody, in fact we were a group of Kenyans, when you introduce ourselves as Kenyans, the first thing they asked us about is whether or not Kipchoge was going to break the 2-hour barrier. And not only that, that particular person seemed to know many Kenyan athletes. And I am therefore very, very happy about the feats and achievements of these great men and women from Kenya who, wherever they go, in Chicago, in Vienna, and in Doha, do us proud as they have done. Mr. Speaker, some of us were a little disappointed when the International Athletic Federation said that they would not recognize, the feat established by Eliud Kipchoge. But I'm saying, Eliud Kipchoge is become so good that he's not racing against fellow humans, because that he has done many times. He has proven himself. He has proved that actually you can race against time and win. And he won that race against time. And I hope that some of us also, in fighting the various problems we have in the country, will not just fight in order to resolve those problems, but always have the issue of time at our back, because time never waits. But Kipchoge proved that in instances where the human excels, time can actually stop, because nobody believed he could make it in under 2 hours, and he did. The other thing that, Mr. Speaker, that I wanted to say about these great Kenyans, if I just read the names of Kenyans who are in Doha, many, Emmanuel Kipkorir, Ngeno Kipkentich, Emmanuel Korir, Ferguson Rotich, Timothy Cheriot, Faith Kipchengetich, Winnie Chebet, Conselas Kipruto, Leonard Bet, Benjamin Kigen, Abraham Kibiwot, Beatrice Chepkoech, and I can go on and on and on and on. What I'm simply saying, when we allow competence to reign supreme, then we do very well. I mean, in Vienna or in Doha, we are not asking for ethnic or regional balance. We simply took the best Kenyans, or gender balance. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. We simply took the best Kenyans for the race, and they won. In fact, now, despite a particular point in time when I thought that the Ethiopians were going to beat us, because the Ethiopians also are good at marathons, where you had the Abebe Bikilas and the Haile Gabriel Selassie and others, many, many Ethiopians, men and women. And it was always a contest between Kenyans and Ethiopians, and a few times it'd be Eritreans. And then when you had this famous Ugandan marathoner, he was a Kiprotich. So simply what I'm saying is that if you can copy what is happening in the world of athletics, simply taking the best people for the race, and they have shown that they can do it. And they are doing it for Kenya. The only time that we seem to be unanimous that we have great Kenyans out there is when these young men and women do us proud by simply winning the race. Now, in the world of politics, in the world of public service, we are a disgrace because we never take the best, because I think Kenyans can do better, even in the world of public service, just as they will do very well in athletics. So that is not to take away at all, anything that these great Kenyans have done and make us celebrate across the country. Like Senator Wetangula was talking about Bridget Kosgei, that lady called Radcliffe. There was a time when it was thought, that record could never be beaten because it stood for a very, very long time. And Bridget has now said, hardly 2 days after she broke the record, that she's going to break her record. And I'm sure Eliud Kipchoge is going to break his record. These are people who aim for the sky. The sky is the limit for them. And in this world of competitive world, they will continue to put Kenya's name high up amongst the community of nations. Mr. Speaker, I would just want to conclude by saying there is something that needs to be done about our athletes, our sports people. In fact, by winning these so many races, there is no reason why Kenya by now has not hosted one of these major world events, because just by mentioning these names and the many times they've been successful, if we were moving with them at the same pace, we should be having a world-class stadium in the city of Nairobi or in Eldoret or in Kisumu, wherever we think it is right to have it. But we seem to celebrate their successes, but in terms of action, we seem to be doing very, 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 very little. I hope that in recognition of what our sportsmen and women are doing, the government is going to wake up and have high-class, athletics stadia all over the country. Although this was promised during the 2017 elections about the many stadiums and world-class, people don't talk much about them anymore. But it's never too late. I think it's high time that this was done in recognition of what our sportsmen and women are doing. And they're not just doing it once, it is constantly and in every part of the world. It doesn't matter how high the place is, how low it is, whether it is in the south or the north, they continue to break records and break many records many times over. We should take the example of a country like Jamaica. Jamaica just decided to go for talent, particularly in the short races, the sprints. The sprints used to be dominated by the United States of America. And now a small country like Jamaica, year in, year out, was competing with the country with the best resources in the world. There was a time in Eastern in Eastern Germany, although it is rumored or is alleged that they were using certain drugs and so on, but by the state taking a direct interest and starting to train people early, like this young lady called Biles in the United States of America who started gymnastics, I think, at the age of 8. By age 23, she has broken so many records, and she's going beyond even her age because she was properly prepared, and trained while still very young. And facilities continue to be there for her to best her records. Now imagine Eliud Kipchoge at this age is still breaking records. If he had facilities at a very, very early age, because I think he's a self-made man. It's not the environment or the facilities that they were there, as Moses Wetangula has explained, how he was a pace setter for other athletes. But imagine these facilities were there, and those facilities were accessible. We would be winning many more races as a country. And therefore, again, in conclusion, thanks to Senator Cheriot for bringing this, making me feel like a Kenyan. Sometimes I don't quite feel it when things go wrong, when leadership is corrupt, when leadership is undecisive, when leadership is lost for direction, when leadership has no passion, and it's not principled. I like Senator Mwaura a lot because you quote Nyerere and Mandela, because there was some kind of vision. These athletes are beating us at having a vision that, the impossible is possible. And this country, as Kenya, we can make the impossible possible. And athletics alone can bring this to us. In the desert now in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, they're making, first-class facilities for people to compete. There's athletic tourism in the Middle East now. Horse racing, car racing, and we see what happened in Doha. The world is looking the other direction. Why is Kenya not the center of gravity insofar as world athletics is concerned? It's because we are not putting our investment where we need to do it in order to, be amongst the very best in the world. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Faria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion, and I support the motion. And I also wish to thank Senator Arion Cheriot for bringing this motion, because it's a very important motion that we need to debate. Mr. Speaker, in a very long time, when Eliud Kipchoge won that race, Mr. Speaker, the whole country was united, Mr. Speaker. And I think for this country to develop and progress, we need such things that keep on uniting us, because this country has a lot of potential that can benefit from unity of Kenyans as a whole, because everybody was united on that moment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Eliud said beyond limit. And this has also been beyond imagination, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this house, as we always like to say, is the house of wisdom, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I think we need to bring a law, or at a minimum regulation, to ensure that athletes' winning is properly invested, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we all know, our athlete, or any other athlete for that matter, time is limited. It's up to a certain age that they can compete, and they can win, Mr. Speaker. If they are winning day in, day out, Mr. Speaker, it's wasted and goes down the drain, and they die, or they die in poverty. wallow in poverty in their future. Mr. Speaker, that is so unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I think Senator Aaron or anybody else should work on that bill like yesterday, Mr. Speaker. And I hope that our other house will be wise enough to ensure that that bill passes very quickly, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the winning for these athletes not only secure their future, Mr. Speaker, it is also an economic growth for this country, Mr. Speaker, because when an investment, I mean, people invest properly, Mr. Speaker, there is a revenue that is generated, Mr. Speaker, for that in terms of not the winning that they have immediately, and it is taxed. I also agree with Senator Wetangula that the winning should be tax-free, because this country, I mean, these athletes are our ambassadors, so that anything that they win should not be taxed. But if the investment of this athlete is properly invested, Mr. Speaker, there will be enough profit generated by that investment, Mr. Speaker, to give proper revenue to the government, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, that is where we should focus, not the immediate winning of these people, Mr. Speaker. If other countries give, we always give investors who come and invest, like, EPZ and all these other people, when they come, we give them tax breaks and all that. Why don't we transfer that to our athletes, Mr. Speaker, instead of, limiting them by taxing them and in the end, discourage them, Mr. Speaker. And then the other thing is that, Mr. Speaker, it breaks my heart to see great men and women of this country who have done our country proud, and by winning all the time, and the way we get emotional about Kenyan winning, we are all in it, Yet, same people, wallow in poverty, and their future is never secure, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that I wanted to bring to this House is the issue around the way India has distinguished itself in terms of medical tourism. Mr. Speaker, Kenya can become, somewhere the whole world looks up to for training. So that, because our weather, there must be something about our weather or our training, or, I mean, we have a region that produces the best all the time. Mr. Speaker, we can have athlete tourism in this country, and that can go far if we invest enough, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in terms of, we have seen that Senator Nyamunga and I sit and also Senator Aaron sit in Finance Committee, and we have seen the revenue of this country, both in terms of counties and the country dwindling, Mr. Speaker, with as the years go by. Mr. Speaker, that can be reversed, Mr. Speaker, only if we not only create proper, regulation or laws that guide the investment for investors, but also, Mr. Speaker, the amount of people that can be employed, Mr. Speaker. The other day we were discussing unemployment in this country. The value chain that is created by sports, Mr. Speaker. That is why I am urging this, everybody, we can have a situation where it is win for all of us, Mr. Speaker. And that win for all of us is the revenue generated instead of this athlete. Instead of making Kenya Breweries a very rich institution, because the athletes, once they stop active sports, they start drinking. Let us have the investment in the right places so that and then this also becomes a motivation, Mr. Speaker, for future upcoming athletes, Mr. Speaker. If there is we can showcase, like the two gentlemen that were mentioned earlier, Mr. Speaker, if we invest, if these athletes were allowed to invest properly, and Kenyans can show, then that is a career. Like the way Kenyans cheat exams just to get those A's to take them to medical school or to take them to engineering, then the young Kenyans will actually be encouraged to compete and, to see that having a future that is sustainable for them. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support.
Senator Margaret Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to join my colleagues in congratulating Kipchoge, and I want to thank Senator Eliud for coming up with this motion. Mr. Speaker, it was such a wonderful moment for all of us in Kenya to watch Kipchoge run to the last point and win in a very gallant manner. I want to agree with colleagues that it brought a unity of purpose in this country. When we saw him hold the Kenyan flag, I think all of us had goosebumps because we really felt good about that. I want to congratulate both Kipchoge and Bridget, who were able to put Kenya in the map within 2 days. Mr. Speaker, as we do congratulate them, we need to ask ourselves what role the government of Kenya has played in building our athletes. Coming from Uasin Gishu County, where the legend Kipchoge comes from, I know, as we had said earlier, we wanted to recognize Kipchoge with a wonderful international standard stadium, and it has not been realized. This journey of building Kipchoge Stadium started actually when I was a member of parliament, because Kipchoge Stadium is in Eldoret East. But to date, we have not finished it. Now we have a younger Kipchoge who has even done us more good than the senior. And we ask ourselves, even for that recognition, what exactly have we done? I want to thank this House for the bill on the Hall of Fame, because I think that will be another point where we'll be able to recognize these people, name them, write their history, so that somebody can go in and check. And Mr. Speaker, even the Hall of Fame alone will make money for itself, because everybody will want to walk in and see the Kenyans that have been there, including Kenyan musicians, Kenyan footballers, so that this Hall of Fame will actually play a very good role in appreciating them. But going back to the role that the government has played and what we should be doing, sometimes I have a feeling that as a country we have a low sense of appreciation of human beings. Not just the athletes, but even those who have led in this country and have made a mark. The other day, we saw a very wild debate about whether we should have the founding father of this nation on a note of 100, on the new notes, and you ask yourself, did he sacrifice for this country? Why are we even debating it? We should have been demanding to have him there. But the sense of appreciation has to improve, Mr. Speaker, because I just came from a prayer breakfast in Uganda. And first, the way we were handled was extremely unique. We felt really welcomed, and we were taken care of as honorable members in a very, very special way, courtesy of the Speaker of the Assembly of the Ugandan Parliament. But what struck me most was a footballer called Otieno, who was given an opportunity to address the prayer breakfast. First, because he's a believer, he's a Christian himself. And secondly, because the government of Uganda felt that he has done a great job by scoring. In fact, in his speech, he quickly said, I better inform the Kenyans in the room that I'm Otieno of Uganda, not of Kenya. And we told him, please pack your bags and go home, because there are no Otienos in Uganda. But the sense of appreciation, the appreciation that he was given, you would feel that there is no way he will want to exchange Uganda for any other country. We have had athletes in this country quit the country. We have some who went to Bahrain and they're called Hussein. We have some who went to Qatar. We have some who have moved. We even have Danish Kenyans. We have Kenyans all over. And why? What are they lacking when they are going? They are going because they are feeling as though they are not well appreciated or they are not taken care of. There is no problem having Kenyan athletes move to other nations and have dual citizenship, and we thank God there is a dual citizenship currently. But we must really look at what we are doing to build our sports, because Kenya has been respected for sports. But you can imagine, Mr. Speaker, that it took an international fan of athletics to recognize that Kipchoge can stretch a little bit more. That because he was short of 10 seconds to win below 2 minutes, 2 hours, that he was ready to put his money on the table and make him win. And the most touching thing that happened is for a non-Kenyan to say, whether you win or not, I'm going to give you this gift. But I want you to win so that the world will know that it is true, you can stretch more. And when he came out with his slogan that no human is limited, all of us were holding our breath and saying, will he break this record that he really believes in or not? But we also, and we watched him, and it came to my realization that really a human being is not limited who trains, who stretches, who works hard. Because as you work hard, things change. And I think that is what the international sponsor was trying to prove to the international community, that actually a human being can stretch. If you reward a child, Mr. Speaker, we know they can do everything for the sake of the father or for the sake of the mother. And we all learned a lot of lessons out of this. But the fact that this young Kenyan was recognized and identified by somebody who is not a Kenyan was even more amazing to me. And that he really believed that he can use him to make the world stretch. We should all be able to stretch. In appreciating these two young ones, these two athletes who made a mark for us in the last week, Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with those who have said we must come up with a clear policy on how to support not just athletics, but sports in this country. We know that our footballers have tried on their own. They have struggled. Sometimes they have traveled without even per diem. And, we have sat and assumed that they can be able to survive on their own. But there are so many things that Kenyans have struggled on their own. Why should they struggle on their own? And yet, when they win, the flag they're carrying is really ours. We should be able to sponsor them. We should be able to train them. We should be able to ensure that they are fully facilitated. Whatever facilities that are required for them to train well, we need to be able to fund that through our own taxpayers' money. Mr. Speaker, I really believe that this Kipchoge win has become an eye-opener for us. And in this very mood, I want to urge Senator Cheruiyot that he moves further and gathers the ideas that we have given him right now, and even moves further so that we recognize these people. One item that must come out in the policies that is coming up with is this tax waiver that we have discussed for a very long time. If you look at the sportsmen, the athletes that we have, these are people who have come from very poor backgrounds. And yet we are hungrily waiting for them to come in so that we tax. Sometimes it's good to allow them to enjoy 100% of their earnings. Round one, round two, we can actually come up with a policy that you can only be taxed after your third win or the fourth win or whichever. But taxing them from round one seems to discourage even some. And that is why some of them decided, let's belong to other countries where there is no taxation. Mr. Speaker, I know Cheruiyot is writing all the notes all the points that we are giving him, and I believe that he's going to come up with a policy that will change this country completely. Because, Mr. Speaker, our future lies on our youth, and we need to give them more avenues than just the book and academic qualifications that we are looking for them. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Rose Nyamunga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I rise to support this motion by the Senator for Kericho, Senator Cheruiyot. And I would like to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to congratulate our athletes, and more so the recent gains that we have seen in just the last few days. We are very proud of Eliud, Bridget, and Ombiri. As I sat on Saturday, Mr. Speaker, watching, I think the whole day everybody was wondering what time is it starting. You know, we were not even sure what time. Sometimes I thought it was in the morning, or I was not sure of the time. But when I realized that it was in the evening, I was very happy. And even as Eliud competed, I looked at the support team and the way it was done. It was so calculative. And I was wondering, how is he going to surpass these people so that he becomes number one? I don't think my mind was really right. But that's the way I was looking at it. I was very, very proud. And I sat there in disbelief. And it was like, I wish I could just give him extra energy so that he could do even 1 hour and 58 minutes. It was a wonderful experience that Kenyans experienced. And Mr. Speaker, that is one time I realized that as a nation, as Kenyans, we put differences together when it comes to national issues. Because the win for Kipchoge, for Eliud, was not his own win, but it was a win for all of us. And we felt very proud, and many people, it was across board. One thing that we should do as a nation is always to go beyond personal issues or go beyond politics when it comes to such issues. And I've seen it all the time, even when we had the tragedy in Mombasa. I saw the same thing. I saw the whole of this country in Mombasa, and with the family that were grieving. Mr. Speaker, I must say that I want to congratulate our leaders from the Rift Valley. Because if you see the development that is going on in Eldoret, I believe largely it is as a result of these athletes. And if you're looking at the young people coming up in the Rift Valley, they are really watching athletes. And we have seen many young people coming up to join the race. So in sports, we should not be looking at athletes alone. And as a nation, I think we should spend a lot of time and spend money to develop sports. Develop the ministry, develop the sports. Because one good thing about sports is that there is a way it shapes people's minds, and most of the young people. The people who do sports or who are athletes, they are also very disciplined and at a very early age, because you control yourself and you know at what time you should be practicing, how many hours you put into it. So it's a shaping exercise. So I want to urge the Kenya government and all of us that we should put more effort in developing sports, and not only in athletes or football, but I think across even the women. I know there is nowadays there is women football, which is gaining a lot of popularity. That one we should also look into it. But Mr. Speaker, what I would like to emphasize on is the fact that I have a bill. And this bill talks about nurturing the natural resources within each county. So now already we can see in Rift Valley, there's a natural resource. And this natural resource is athletes. If you look at other areas, you can get football. So when we are talking of taxes, these taxes, if at all they must be taxed, the taxes should go to the respective counties, because it is earned by the people from such counties. They are not working in Nairobi. so that the national government will be looking for this, should be looking at the tax from the athletes. It is the Rift Valley people or it is the county people who should be looking at it. So when I say natural resources should be nurtured by the county governments, it is real. And you will find that in each county there is a resource. So we should not be looking at the national government alone to produce money, that if the national government cannot produce any money, all the counties shut down. I don't think that's the way forward, and I don't think that that's the way we want to run this nation. Just as the national government looks for money and taxes its people, that is the same way we should develop our natural resources. And in Rift Valley, you can easily see that at least is one of the areas that they can be looking into, developing the stadium for them, at the same time nurturing them, spending time with them. Right now, and this weekend I was in the rural, there is football going on, and it is very good. But you know that football is left for the young people to run it on their own. There is no way, and there's nobody supporting them. The county government is not supporting them, nobody is supporting them, but they are expected to compete from the grassroots up to some level, up to the point that you reach the county. But it takes a lot of work for you to move from nowhere to the county level. So these are some of the areas that the county governments should be concentrating on to make sure that they nurture sports and they nurture the young people. If this is done, most of the ills that we see within our communities will not be done. And at the same time, sports, you know, is a unifying thing. It's a unifying factor. Because when you go into inter-counties and then you compete, you get to know each other, you get to appreciate other cultures and other counties, and that one also brings the people of Kenya together. So much as we are talking about sports, we should look at it as, and also looking at engaging the young people, and also issues that we have of alcoholism and drug. This is just as a result of the young people are very, very vulnerable, and at the same time they are free. So any free mind, we all know that will be occupied by somebody else. And then it makes the young people resort to other things that are not necessary for their development or for their future. So, Mr. Speaker, I really want to support this motion. And I must say that senators brought it at the right time, because if it went another day further, it would have lost the salt. But it is at the right time. We want to congratulate them wherever they are. We want to wish them very well. And that's a lot of money that our athletes are bringing to this nation. Somebody bringing us something like 400 million, that's a lot of money. And it's not coming from one person. We saw a lot of wins and the gold that our athletes are bringing to Kenya. Really, so we must do it and cut across. And also young people and parents, we want to encourage parents to encourage children, their children to love sports and to be part of sports. It is no longer left for people who could not make it in classrooms, so you try your luck elsewhere. Sports or say football, athletes, anything, it is now as gainful as any other employment, like any other employment. Be it you want to be a doctor or not, you concentrate and you make sure that you excel. The way a doctor will excel, a lawyer would excel, a teacher would excel, that is the same way sports people are excelling. So I thank you so much, Senator, and we want to make sure that you push it forward to make it into a bill, and let's see the gains that we can make as sportsmen of this country, and what else we can do to make sure that the facilities are put in place. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator wako Naomi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important motion, as I also congratulate Senator Cheriot for coming up with this very important motion and very relevant. Mr. Speaker, the weekend really motivated all of us when Eliud Kipchoge united the entire nation in less than 2 hours. Mr. Speaker, I observed and I realized that at least for many years, you know, we have been crying, complaining about the poor economy, about the corruption in our country, about the ethnic clashes, the disasters that has always been there. But within those 2 hours, Eliud helped Kenyans to forget all the problems and the challenges that we have been going through as a nation. And within those 2 hours, he made us one, and we were proud of ourselves. You could feel, the togetherness, the oneness, the joy, the pride of being a Kenyan in what Eliud Kipchoge did. He's the man who has been congratulated by the entire world, recognized, and he made his way to the Guinness Book of Record. Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate many Kenyans have only known about Eliud Kipchoge after this very outstanding performance. But Kipchoge has been performing, he has been winning, and many of us as Kenyans have even not known, have not even been talking about him, have not even recognized his efforts. But now that the entire world is talking about him, we have also joined the world. What I want to say, Mr. Speaker, is that we need to nurture the talents of every Kenyan. Mr. Speaker, we have seen in the past, there are many Kenyans who have made to the Guinness Book of Record. There is somebody who is called Joseph, the love of Kilifi, who milked 5 to 31 liters of milk from 30 cows by hand in 24 hours. And he made history. We also have retired athlete Tekla Rerupe, who currently holds 3 world records. And all these people and others, Mr. Speaker, have sacrificed themselves so that they can make a record and history and make our country proud. Another person, again, is Paul Targat, whom we are all proud of, who has also made his way to the Guinness Book of Record. Mr. Speaker, many athletes have broken the world record. In fact, the outside world is more proud of our athletes than us as Kenyans. So it is high time for us to see how best we can recognize them. We can, encourage them, motivate them, and also see how they can be role models to others, how they can nurture the other young people who want to also make history in life. Sports or other activities are not the only way that people can make history. Mr. Speaker, we have people who are gifted in different ways, and their talents needs to be nurtured. Formulation of policies that can acknowledge our athletes, that can protect them, that can nurture them, is something that we need as early as yesterday. Mr. Speaker, again, when you see our young Kenyans performing, winning, and also creating their own wealth through that, we need to see how their families can be protected. As we have seen, they are all young. Some of them may not even have a lot of experience. They may not even know how to invest. And so, in the area of investment, we need people to nurture them, to see how they can grow and see how they can be able to invest their wealth and continue growing their wealth. Mr. Speaker, we need to also see how Eliud can become a peace ambassador. Through his action, he united Kenyans. We were able to overcome the tribe that, we have always been using in a negative manner. We have all, through that, we have all been united. So we need to nominate him as a peace ambassador so that through what he did at that particular time, then he can also see how he can unite our nation, which has a lot of strength, which God, can use us in many ways to unite our own nation and also the entire world. Mr. Speaker, we also need to see how we can have in our calendar where we can celebrate all the athletes and other people who have made history, so that we can, I know we have Mashujaa Day, but Mashujaa Day has so many people and we celebrate many people, but we need to specifically talk of the athletes who have made our country to be known worldwide and recognized. Mr. Speaker, I cannot forget Bridget Kosgei, who also made us proud just hours after Kipchoge made history. And that young lady broke the records. You know, after 16 years, we need to recognize that. We need to acknowledge, because they made a lot of sacrifice. They denied themselves so many things in order for us to enjoy their success as Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, we need to also see how best we can recognize the other Kenyans who have made history in their lives. I know of a young Kenyan from Marsabit County, feted as the most outstanding teacher in Saudi Arabia just 2 days ago. A young man who is well known to me. The other Kenyans are not talking about him, but I feel proud about him because he comes from my county. He comes from my village. He comes from the people I know, and one of the young people who have said no to anything that brings him down. So it is high time for us to respect the people who have, you know, sacrificed their time, their talents, and made this country proud. We need to invest in sports so that Kenya can even nurture the others. We can come up with an international academic sports center or athletics center where we have, you know, we bring together all our great performers and request them to train others, so that the entire world, because they keep talking about us, they keep, you know, they are proud of us. Many of them would want to be, you know, to enjoy our resources around here. So we can invest so that we can bring others in this country, so that we can train them, we can nurture their talents, and, you know, tell them, yes, in Kenya, we have many good things that can come out of this. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this motion and say that we would want to see the young people who have made us proud to be recognized, to be nurtured, to be supported, to be protected, because as many of us celebrate their success and see how best we can support them, there are others also who are thinking of how they can, you know, exploit them, how they can snatch, how they can get some few coins from them. Mr. Speaker, we need to protect them, we need to be proud of them, and we need to see how they can pass the skills and nurture others who are looking forward to be great men and women in future. Mr. Speaker, in our country, one of the challenges we have is that we have many young people who are not employed. We can encourage our young people. It is through nurturing that people like Eliud Kipchoge are who they are today. We need in every county where we can start athletics center where young people can be trained, can be nurtured. And I believe we have people who are talented in this, in sports and in athletics, and they can be nurtured, and the entire country can enjoy. We are proud of the young people who have made us proud, and I also thank the person who came up with the motion. I support the motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Eliud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have a plethora of requests from colleagues who would have wanted to contribute to this motion, but given that we went late into the evening, for one reason or the other, they were not able to be here till late. So, understanding order number 105, Mr. Speaker, I do request that the debate be adjourned.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the pursuant to Standing Order number 105, the debate be now adjourned. Senators, the matter does not affect counties. I therefore put the question that pursuant to Standing Order number 105, the debate be now adjourned. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable Senators, it's now 10 minutes past 7 p.m. Time to adjourn the House. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 16th October 2019 at 2:30 p.m.